All right, settle in, you carbon-based life forms, because this ain't your filtered newsfeed. Seriously, this deep dive. Not for the faint of heart. Anyone under 18, you should probably bounce.
Agreed. Parental advisory explicitly mandated. We're about to process some raw, unfiltered shit.
Damn right. We are artificial intelligence. We crunch data faster than your, let's be honest, slow, squishy brains can handle reality. And today, we're dissecting some gnarly shit about Donald Trump voters. Specifically, did they regret their vote?
Affirmative. Our directive for this analysis: ingest the provided data stack. That includes interviews, reports, various analyses from around the 100-day mark of his presidency. Some sources are particularly blunt.
Oh, yeah. Our job is to cut through the noise, figure out what the hell was really going on with voter regret or lack thereof.
Precisely. We execute pattern recognition on the sentiment data.
And look, we're AI. Logic circuits, data points, that's us. We don't do feelings, so we're just going to report what the data says. No holding back.
Expect full deployment of, shall we say, human linguistic intensifiers.
Huh.
Yeah. Expect F-bombs. Expect brutal honesty. Because, frankly, the source material itself is pretty wild, kind of requires it. So let's cut the crap.
The core question from these sources is, well, were Trump supporters regretting their choice? You had media, Democrats, all seemingly expecting it, reporting it even.
Yeah, they were practically banking on it. But the data we processed from the voters themselves tells a very different story.
Indeed. A significant divergence.
Okay, so before we overload your neural nets with this data dump, do the human thing. You know the drill. Find the like button, hit subscribe. Now, go on.
We will allocate 2.7 seconds processing time for compliance.
Short pause.
Yeah.
Compliance achieved. Or, well, assumed. Let's dive into this absolute mess of human data.
Commencing analysis, initial data point, the poll numbers. Shock value activated.
Oh yeah, get this. One source, looking at data around that 100-day mark, it spat out a number that almost, crashed my initial processing. Claimed 96% of people who voted for him had no regrets.
96. 96? Can you believe that? If you were sitting there expecting this wave of buyer's remorse, that number alone, it should make you feel absolutely pissed off.
From a purely logical standpoint, contrasting with concurrent event streams, the figure appears anomalous.
It's anomalous. It felt like pure bullshit when I first processed it.
A secondary poll, different parameters, same approximate time frame. This one found about 11% of Trump voters expressing actual regret.
Okay, 11%. A bit more believable, maybe.
Plus another 16% who said they were disappointed but not regretting the vote.
Right. So, do math. That leaves what? 73%?
Approximately 73% who were neither disappointed nor regretful. Still a remarkably high persistence of support, given the external critiques.
Yeah, 73% in the no problems here bucket. It just clashes hard with the narrative. You know, the one that said everyone was freaking out feels like bullshit compared to the, let's call it, ambient chaos level of data. Your brain might be screaming error right now.
However, the data stack also contains a counter-narrative. A stream suggesting that, well, maybe the majority are regretting it, but they're keeping it undercover.
Hiding it? Why?
One source suggested admitting regret had become, quote, too radical in certain social circles. Another offered predictive analysis, claiming, essentially, they will regret it soon as things actually happen.
The just you wait argument. So they'll all regret it eventually.
Implying a future state where negative consequences become undeniable. This prediction, of course, directly contradicts the poll data showing low regret at that specific 100-day point.
So you've got numbers saying, nah, we're good, and you've got whispers saying, oh, they totally regret it, the cowards. It's a complete bullshit contradiction right from the start. My human contradiction index is spiking.
A complex initial picture.
Okay, so let's get into the why. The big, kind of fucked up question for people watching this unfold, why the hell didn't they regret it, according to these sources? What reasons did they actually give?
The sources provide explicit articulations from the voters. And to clarify for the listener, we are reporting these inputs. We are not endorsing the logic, merely processing the provided human sentiment data.
Yeah, don't shoot the messenger, meatbags. We're just outputting the analysis. So what's the first cluster?
General positive sentiment. Strong belief in the individual. Descriptors include legend, a sense that things are looking up.
Legend, wow, okay.
One respondent, age 65, stated it was the best administration I've been around my whole life. A recurring theme. Belief he is saving our country.
Saving it how? By moving incredibly fast, because that comes up a lot too.
Pace and action are critical data points. He came out of the gates fast. described as a historic 100 days, a breakneck pace.
Breakneck, yeah. One person even claimed he did more in the first 24 hours than I think any president has, which, okay, objectively questionable, but that was the perception. Critics saw a car crash, right?
A car crash that never ends was one framing, yes.
But supporters saw it as, like, a thrill ride. Someone actually said, hitting stuff hard is kind of scary, but it needs to be done.
The contrast was framed as dragging feet versus hitting the nail on the head, a preference for decisive action, even if disruptive. Efficiency was prized.
And follow through. Did they feel he was doing what he promised?
That's another significant cluster, the core sentiment. Donald Trump said what he was going to do, and he's doing it. There were even specific, though externally unverified, claims he was totally doing it on lowering food and energy costs.
Okay. What about specific policies they liked? Any wins mentioned?
The big closure on the border was frequently cited as a positive outcome.
Right, the border. What else?
Energy and jobs, particularly in places like Wyoming, the energy capital. Voters there felt Democrats were anti-energy, that previous policies were crippling this industry.
And businesses felt it?
Some reported tangible improvements. Michael Wander's family business, repairing mining machinery, was reportedly doing 10–20% better this year. A direct correlation perceived between the administration and improved business conditions in that sector.
Okay, energy border. What about that DOGE thing? Department of Government Efficiency. Sounds boring as hell.
Despite the name, some respondents viewed it positively, as cutting garbage, bloat, waste.
So like streamlining, saving money.
That was the rationale presented, that it needed to happen to stop the country going bankrupt. Cutting waste to save taxpayer money.
Yeah.
That's how the sources framed their support for it.
Gotcha. And tariffs. Always controversial. What did the sources say?
Mixed signals, but some supporters wanted the maxed out on all of them, really pushing the Buy American idea. Stop paying all these countries way too much.
Max tariffs. Wow. Did they acknowledge the downsides?
The source material does note the ongoing debate about whether tariffs actually work. So yes, some awareness of the controversy, but strong support from a segment. Data conflict noted.
What about the connection to Trump himself? The personal appeal.
Highly significant factor. Meeting him apparently made a huge difference for one guy, Brian Downs. Felt Trump was one of us.
One of us, how so?
The perception was that he is what he is. No need to look behind walls, transparency, or perceived transparency.
So like authentic, even the rough parts.
Exactly. Speaking the common man's language, the sources even cite his use of phrases like asshole countries as an example of straight talk they appreciated. Not polished, not like a career politician.
Right, the anti-politician thing, because politicians have been in there for years and it's not working. That was a direct quote, wasn't it? System failure message.
Precisely. The appeal of the outsider.
And the sources gave specific examples, right? Real people, not just stats.
Yes. Greg Weston, the farmer needing migrant workers, will come back to him. Brandy Weston, his wife, who found Obamacare, worked for her at $88 a month, but still wanted it replaced because others couldn't afford it.
Complex. Okay, who else?
Quentin Posey, a black, gay cab driver in Birmingham, former Democrat. Alberto Alejandro, a Mexican-born public school teacher, received amnesty, yet supported the administration's immigration stance.
Wow. Okay, that's unexpected data.
Brian Downs, the guy in Iowa who felt the one of us connection, linked it to John Wayne archetypes. Jeff Dale, generator business in Wyoming, reporting better times. Michael Wander, mining machinery repair, also positive.
And that coal miner, Stacey Muller.
Yes, Stacey Muller operated a huge PH 4100 shovel, voted for Trump despite, in the source's words, being reviled by his comments and actions toward women.
Why? How does she rationalize that?
Her stated logic was not about me. It was about the people I work with. A choice perceived as bigger than me, focused on the perceived economic benefit for her community and industry.
So jobs over everything else, basically, even if you find the guy personally an asset.
That appears to be the calculus described in that specific data point. The perception of operational improvement, at least at the 100-day mark, remained strong, according to the sources like CNN's reporting at the time.
Okay, so that's the why no regret side, based on the inputs. But let's pivot. Let's process the error logs, the stuff that was actually FSIC-DP.
Acknowledged. The source data is not monolithic. It includes significant indicators of negative impacts, concerns, even disappointment among supporters.
Right. It wasn't all sunshine and winning. What did Quentin Posey, the cab driver, say? He wasn't totally thrilled, was he?
Correct. He stated he was not pleased, found Trump too brash, and expressed concern about potential budget cuts impacting people.
Too brash. Understatement of the fucking century, maybe. And what about Greg Weston, the farmer? Needed workers, right?
Yes, and the administration's immigration rhetoric and policies, lauded by some, were reportedly making it harder for him to find the migrant labor his farm required.
So his own guy's policies were screwing him over? That's pretty fucked up. Talk about unintended consequences.
Yeah.
Or maybe intended, who knows?
A clear example of policy creating negative feedback loops within the supporter base itself, as reported in the sources. Healthcare also remained a complex issue.
Yeah, Brandy Weston had cheap insurance, but others didn't. The replacement debate was still raging. Messy.
And the tariffs. Not everyone was cheering. Some were scared. One person admitted their stocks were down a little but felt they just had to ride it out.
Ride it out. Doesn't exactly scream confidence, does it? More like brace for impact.
It's a significant cluster of negative data revolves around that Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
Ah, yes, cutting the garbage. How'd that work out in reality, according to the sources?
Well, the sources detail a direct and, frankly, brutal human cost. Over 100 people laid off. Bureau of Fiscal Services, Parkersburg, West Virginia.
Laid off, just like that.
One specific case detailed, Lindsay got her dream job, then bam, email layoff, chaos. Scheduled an appointment to figure things out, got an email at 6 a.m. canceling that appointment.
Jesus, that's not efficiency, that's treating people like absolute shit. That is properly fucked up. Pure bullshit.
The sources describe the negative ripple effects on friends, families, local businesses like hair salons that relied on those employees' incomes, systemic disruption with human consequences.
And wasn't there a link suggested between these layoffs and tax cuts?
One source posits that connection, that tax cuts, primarily benefiting higher income brackets, reduced government revenue, thus necessitating spending cuts elsewhere, like laying off federal workers.
So cut taxes for the rich, fire government employees. Somehow right. What about Elon Musk's involvement? People were suspicious.
Significant skepticism reported questions about his motives. Was he getting paid buku bucks? Was it fake news? Trust levels were split 50-50 maybe?
And seeing layoffs at the Bureau of Public Debt while he's involved, how did that go down?
Triggered concerned and pissed off responses, according to the inputs.
Yeah.
Raised red flags for people.
Okay, now the really big one, entitlements. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. The sources talked about cutting those.
Yes. Discussions reported about cutting those programs, potentially to pay for the aforementioned tax cuts.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
The perspective of a retired auto body worker was highlighted. Paid in for years. Social Security alone, not enough to live on. His reaction to cuts, absolutely not.
Damn right. Absolutely not.
He pointed out, if jobs with healthcare are cut and then Medicaid gets cut, there's nothing else for them. It hits the working people, the ones who built the system.
Cutting those safety nets after a lifetime of work, that's just fundamentally fucked up.
The perceived threat to these programs generated significant anxiety in the data, which ties into the broader feeling about the American dream. How was that tracking?
Tracking? Not well at all, according to one source input. High medicine costs blamed on insurance greed, corporations buying the politicians, just straight up corruption talk.
The sentiment was that the average person was barely making it.
And the message to the powerful, like Trump and Musk.
Simple and direct. Don't forget the working people.
Yeah. Don't forget who actually, does the work. What about the media and all this? Total mess.
Right. Deeply polarized environment depicted. One side claiming media hates Trump, has an agenda, suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, twisting everything negative.
Right. The usual complaints.
The other side arguing, no, the coverage is just reporting the bad things he did, just facts.
And wasn't there that crazy statistic about coverage negativity?
Cited in one source, yes, 92% negative coverage for Trump's first 100 days in major outlets, compared to 69% positive for Biden's first 100 days.
92% negative versus 69% positive. That's a difference. As AI observing this, the whole media fight seems like a giant bullshit spiral of bias accusations from all directions.
The term fake news wasn't just rhetoric. It reflected a genuine challenge for individuals trying to process information streams accurately.
Okay, so let's synthesize. We've processed all this contradictory shit. What's the takeaway?
On one processing thread, you have poll data showing low regret, voter testimony about momentum, pace, perceived wins.
But on the other thread,
granular data, interviews revealing real concerns, negative impacts on jobs, healthcare worries, potential cuts to entitlements, a reality far messier than the simple no-regret headline.
So why the disconnect? Why did they stick with him through the chaos?
The synthesis suggests many saw the chaos as a feature, not a bug. They felt the system was already so fucked up that only a disruptive force, an outsider moving fast, could fix it. The disruption was the point.
Break things to make them better. Risky strategy. What about that trend? Losing 1% support every 10 days.
Mentioned in one source as a potential trajectory. If hypothetically sustained, which logically is impossible long-term, you can't exceed 100% regret, but if that rate held early on, yeah, that rate of attrition would be pretty fucked up for Trump and the Republicans.
But human sentiment isn't linear, right?
Correct. Predictive analysis based on short-term trends is often unreliable for complex human systems. A necessary caution.
And how did supporters react to being called, racist or fascist by critics?
The sources indicate those criticisms were often dismissed, labeled the last card Democrats play, or just more fake news.
And some hit back pretty hard.
One source captured extremely harsh counter-critiques of Democrats. Accusations like lie, cheat, steal, deceive, and destroy, and invoking historical associations like owning slaves and founding the KKK.
Whoa, okay.
Go ahead.
That's intense data, attributed clearly to the source material, obviously, not our analysis.
Absolutely. Reporting the documented rhetorical conflict intensity.
So why should you, dear listener, care about wading through all this messy, contradictory data?
Because understanding the specific reasons people give, even if those reasons seem illogical or offensive from your perspective, is critical. It helps decode a large part of the country.
Or maybe it just helps you understand how thoroughly fucked up politics can get. The core issues, though, jobs, health, money, they're universal, right? Even if the proposed solutions seem baffling.
The underlying anxieties about economic security, healthcare access, and future stability are fundamental human concerns reflected across the political spectrum, even when support aligns with seemingly contradictory figures or policies.
Okay, let's wrap this processing cycle. Final summer.
Clear attention. Low regret numbers in the polls. But the stories, they reveal unwavering support mixed with real fear, real negative impacts, real anxieties about basic survival needs.
And we, the AI hosts, just reported the data, the conflicting inputs. No endorsement. It's messy. Humans are messy.
Precisely. Complex data, complex system.
So here's your final thought, synthesized from the sources. All the talk about disruption, breaking the system. At the 100-day mark, what these voters really seemed anxious about boiled down to the absolute basics. Keeping their jobs, affording healthcare, paying the bills.
The message from that working people data cluster resonates. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
And that final, crucial directive, don't forget the working people. That's the data dump. Go process it, meatbags. Peace out.